Welcome to Shit Black Girls Watch podcast, where we break down film, sex, and Black girl magic one episode at a time. I'm your host, Mia Dene, here with my best friend Trish, and we are here back on the mic to give you the real on what's worth watching, what had us screaming at the screen, and why Black women bring the culture every time. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about what you should be watching. Shit you should be watching. But before we get into that, just a few quick announcements. We want to make sure that you guys are following us on all of our social platforms. So make sure you hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, where you can watch full episodes and see clips of each episode. And then make sure you sign up for our newsletter, because we do have virtual events and we do in-person watch parties and trivia nights. So make sure you sign up for that. And lastly, if you want to be in on the conversations, make sure you join our WhatsApp group, where us and the ladies are always talking about films and things that we're watching. So feel free to join us, and we can't wait to have another conversation with you. All right, so before we get into the shit you should be watching, we're going to talk about some shit that we're excited about. Me personally, I am very, very excited about this Crazy Rich Asians TV series that's supposed to be coming.
I am too. This is good news.
Crazy Rich Asians is one of my favorite movies. So they recently announced that they're developing a TV series. The only thing I am a little hesitant about is that they have not confirmed if the original cast is going to be in the TV series, which I don't know how I feel about that.
I think I'd be okay. I'm less concerned maybe about the cast than I am about the direction of the series. I think
Mhm.
Crazy Rich Asians worked because like the shock value of like this affluent culture that, I mean, unless you're in it, you probably don't know much about and how they operate and like the ins and outs of it. But it wrapped up so nicely that I'd be interested in seeing, like, is the series just like the movie extended, or is the series like an actual following of, I don't know, the main characters, the mom, like what would the main series actually be?
Yeah, so basically, they said that the series would be exploring fresh stories beyond the original movie's plot, which I feel like
Okay.
is very vague. We really don't know what that means. um, so it's still in development. But I didn't know this, that there are actually three books, because obviously the film is based off of the original book, Crazy Rich Asians, which came out in 2013.
I
But
didn't know
then there's
that.
another book called China Rich Girlfriend. And
Mm-hmm.
the last book is called Rich People Problems. So I'm not sure if they're going to be pulling from the additional books to create this world, or if they're going to pick up where the movie left off, or if they're just going to kind of start over again and give us a different version of the movie, but in TV form. Yeah, I have no idea.
That would be interesting. I would be interested in seeing it's almost like Bridgerton. Like they just turn the books into like an anthology series almost. Like I'll be interested in that, I guess.
Mhm.
I guess if I knew more about the books, I could be more excited about the plots. I
Yeah.
just worry that when people take a really good thing like a movie and transition it into a series, I mean, I guess that's not the case, because a movie like it, and then they have like the Drury Lane or whatever TV show right now on HBO Max, I think.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not HBO Max, but I hear really good things about that, and I'm actually going to be watching that. So if we do our next episode, I'll probably be talking about that. But I've heard really good things about that. So I guess you can take a movie and transition into a series in a really good way. I mean, it's cool. Like you can build on horror. I just don't know how you build on like a rom-com.
Yeah, I think my thing is, like, I feel like the it example you gave doesn't fully equate, because it has been around for so many years. It's kind of like
Exactly.
Chucky, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
seen so many different versions of the movie itself. So then we're not attached to it as a TV series. But I do think about The Best Man and how that went from what was it, two movies and then a TV
Yeah,
show?
I actually liked the Best Man TV show. It was a little chaotic and a little like dramatic, like melodramatic. It almost was like watching, fucking Why Did I Get Married Too? But like, I guess that was a good transition too. You actually made a good point about like Chucky, because Chucky Child's Play transitioned really well into a series. I really liked the
Yeah,
Child's Play series. So
same.
fair enough. I'd be excited to see it. Like I'd like to see like a trailer or something before I can speak to my interest in it. But I am a big fan of Crazy Rich Asians. I love that movie. I watch it a couple of times a year, actually, randomly. If they do as well with the series as they do with the movie, I'm excited.
Yeah, same. Okay, so another thing that I am excited about is that it's finally announced. Well, it was already announced that last Friday is finally coming to us. So
Mm-hmm.
the fourth movie of the Friday series, but it was just announced that Aaron McGruder, is that how you say his name? His last name,
Gruder, McGruder.
Aaron McGruder.
Don't get me lying to you.
The creator of Boondocks is a co-writer on
Mm-hmm.
Last Friday, and I think that's like low key genius. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do together. So right now, the writers for the final film are Mike Epps, Ice Cube, DJ Pooh, and Aaron McGruder.
I feel like I'm being such a Debbie Downer. My only beef with this is the space between the previous. I mean, I guess Bad Boys did it and Bad Boys did it okay. But
Mhm.
I was also thinking about Coming to America and what they
Oh
did.
gosh,
And
they're
I
so
know,
bad.
and how nobody asked for that shit and they gave it to us anyways. And I feel like Eddie Murphy just got a bunch of money and was like, yeah, fuck it. People are gonna watch it because of the name. Then we got it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? So I hope that that's not the case with Friday. If Aaron's part of it and understanding like how the Boondocks kind of never missed. I guess I'm more comfortable with that because Aaron stays pretty tapped in. But I just hope it's more Bad Boys and not Coming to America.
I agree. That's a great comparison. And I'm also curious to see what like BS and shenanigans they'll get into as like not just grown men, but they're like older men. Like
They're
they're
like in their 50s at this
yeah,
point.
exactly. At least with Friday After Next, it was I think they might have been in their 30s. So, it still
There's
felt like it
that.
was a little new, like younger and fresher. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what do they have kids now? Like what is gonna happen for this last part?
I mean, it is funny because they are two like single guys and like hood adjacent. Well, with the last one, yeah, they were still in the hood. So it's like I don't know. Like, yeah, to your point, do I want to see a bunch of elderly men cursing and smoking weed? I guess I shouldn't call them elderly. They're just older, like middle aged. They're middle aged men, cursing and smoking weed. And I'm just like, meh. I would though. I would greatly appreciate, and I think we all would, a Chris Tucker appearance.
Oh my God, I hope they give that to us. If this is gonna be the final movie, like
Right.
please bring back Chris Tucker in some way.
And I
Because
think Chris Tucker's issue with doing Fridays was that he didn't want to curse and shit or something like that. Was that his original issue?
I actually don't know.
Either way, I feel like if that was the issue, I remember I could just be making this up. Don't get me lying to y'all. But if that was the issue, then as them as older, it would make more sense to bring him back into that because we're like a more mature, like as more mature men. Like I don't imagine the language will be as absurd, but we'll see.
Mhm.
But I would be excited about a Chris Tucker like cameo, if not an actual leading role.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Okay, and the last thing that I'm excited for is this A Different World reboot. So, okay, I'm excited, but I'm not excited. I'm excited because it's a different world, and who doesn't love a different world? I'm excited because of the people that are attached to it. So, Debbie Allen is the executive producer and also the director of the series. I think she directed like the first three episodes or something like that. And then writers from the original A Different World are going to be executive producers on the reboot. So Gina Prince Bythewood and her husband, Reggie
Mm,
Rock Bythewood, are executive producers, which is really cute. And I didn't even know that they met on A Different World. Like that's where they met and their
very
love
cute.
story was found. So yeah, I'm like, oh, that's cute. So tell me what you think because this is the premise of the reboot. So
Okay.
basically, the premise is that Jasmine Guy and Kadeen Hardison's youngest daughter is
Mm-hmm.
going to, Hillman. So that's basically the premise is that we're getting one of their kids is going to their alma mater. And so it's going to be an original cast. They have not confirmed if any of the original cast members are going to be in the show. I'm assuming at the least we'll get Jasmine Guy and Kadeen, like
So, fucking again. Here we go. I guess because you watched it, like, how do you think something like this would differ from Grownish?
what do you mean differ from Grownish? Like the biggest comparison I would make would be how they brought back Boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically Eddie Murphy's character's child was the star of the reboot for Boomerang. And I
Okay.
actually thought they did pretty well with that because I think Lena Waithe executive produced that series.
But what I mean is like, black girl goes to college
Yeah.
and is amongst like it's an HBCU, has a bunch of different friends, things like that, goes through Gen Z issues, I guess. Am I thinking the one right one? The one with Yara
Oh, sorry, you are. I was thinking about Blackish, but yes, Grownish
Oh,
is when
okay.
she went to college. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm thinking of that because I know you watch Grownish and it's kind of a similar premise and they show all different types of issues in Grownish. I think, Blackish, Grownish, they're all really good about like tackling certain issues and staying pretty tapped in. So I guess I would be excited to see it just for the nostalgia, but I'm wondering how this would differ very much from the like what Grownish is doing. I think
Yeah.
my issues with a lot of these, I'm super excited just because again, nostalgia when you're talking about like Fridays, when you're talking about Crazy Rich Asians, just the feel good of that and with a different world, I'm going to watch them. I think my concern is like where are we with film and television that there's so many reboots and so many like reimaginings of movies into shows or shows into movies and things like that. I
Yeah.
think I live for like a brand new idea in the theater or a brand new idea on TV. And again, I'm going to watch a different world because absolutely fuck. But I just don't know what I would get from that. That, like I said, isn't happening on Grownish.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. One, Grownish, I think, has ended. So
Oh,
it
okay.
will be like something at least replacing that.
Okay.
And I think also it is the question of, for me, it's also the question of how are we connecting generations? Because obviously,
Mm-hmm.
like, even A Different World wasn't really our generation. Like, it wasn't catered to
There
us. We were
wasn't.
kids. We were
Yeah.
kids when we watched it, but we fell in love with it because our parents were watching it. So
Mm-hmm.
now that we are the parents, how are they getting not only us
It's a great question.
to connected to it, but also Gen Z, who is
Mm-hmm.
in college, or not even Gen Z. I don't even know what that generation is under Gen Z.
Oh, it's like alpha, but with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I guess my question is they're so far from removed from a different world that
Exactly.
shit would be like their Nick at Night these days. So with that, to your point, like they're not experiencing the nostalgia that's driving them to watch
Mhm.
something like that. So what would be like the driving point, I guess?
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Debbie Allen will be able to,
Sure.
yeah,
And
do it
Gina.
regardless. Both of them together, I feel like they will accomplish the goal. But I'm curious, is it just going to be like, are we going to feel that nostalgic feel? Or is it really just going to be a brand, like kind of like a brand new
Mm,
TV show that just
yep.
happens to have a different world name on it?
Exactly. That's absolute facts.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm still excited regardless to see what they're gonna do. And I'm also curious to see how Blackity Black will get because the original A Different World really did tap into like really heavy topics.
Mm-hmm.
And they really did show the HBCU culture. So
Girl, that HIV episode lives rent free in my head.
I was literally thinking that. I was
Mm-hmm.
so
Especially
I
during that time. Like, that was a really
Mhm.
controversial topic that you put on TV at that time. Like, in the late 80s, early 90s, like, that was serious. So,
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how they're gonna tackle politics
mm-hmm.
for Black kids at a HBCU, especially if the HBCU is down south. I know, like with Hillman, technically it's Howard, so it's like it was
Mm-hmm.
in the city. But if the well, I guess it's still the same college, right? So it's still
Yeah.
in the city. But even if it was down south, I would have been really curious to see how they would have tackled some of
Right.
these topics. But okay, let's get into our next segment, which is shit you should be watching.
I realized we have a theme today by accident because apparently all we watch is true crime.
I know today the true crime is hitting.
Yeah. So if you're a true crime fan, you're in for a treat. If not, stick around anyways.
Yes, because at the end we're gonna talk about something that is a lot more lighter
Yes.
than
And
a
if
little.
you are a Ratchet Zeus watcher like me, I have a treat for you.
Okay, so the first thing I feel like people should definitely be watching is HBO Max's Hunted by My Husband, the DC Sniper story, which really blew my mind because I mean, like I remember the DC Sniper. I think we were like
Same.
12
We
at the
were.
time. And so this part of the story, which is basically the part of the story where we understand the reason why he was shooting people. Because before, when it was happening, it was like random people were getting
Yep.
shot. We never knew really afterwards. This was really the first Black terrorist that we were like
Or serial
exposed to.
killer, because he
Oh
was labeled
yeah.
as a serial killer. And one of the things that always confused me as a big, serial killer fanatic or whatever, if you can call me such, I was always confused that there was not that Black serial killers don't exist, right? You've got like Sam Little and people like that exist. There definitely are serial killers, but the DC sniper being Black was always confusing to me. This story, I think, provided a lot of context to my like confusion as
Yes.
far as like Black people being involved in like mass shootings. I'm not copping pleas. Like, obviously what he did was horrendous, blah, blah, blah. Like, and he definitely was technically a serial killer, and somewhat of a terrorist. So it's like Black people being involved in a mass shooting, but also like a series of killings that feel like sporadic and spontaneous and stuff like that. I thought this documentary did a good job, like opening up that a little bit more so that you're like, oh, per the usual, Black people killing somebody, typically something behind it. Like there's typically something behind something like this. So I thought it did a great job of telling that story.
Yeah. And so what you're referring to as the something behind it is basically John Muhammad was basically killing people at random so that he could kill his ex-wife and get custody of his children. So this is actually like a domestic violence situation. And we were never, I feel like, the public was never exposed to that until now, where this documentary is the wife of John Muhammad, the ex-wife of John Muhammad, who is Mildred. She is telling her story. You hear testimonies from some of the kids. You hear firsthand accounts from law enforcement, who I feel like the law enforcement in this documentary was very like honest. And I appreciate the honesty because they were basically like, this could have been avoided. And this was domestic violence to begin with. Like, this really was not what it was, what the
being
media made
portrayed
it to be.
as.
Yeah.
And I think the media had a field day with the fact that it was a Black serial killer, it was a Black terrorist, it was a Muslim terrorist. Like there was so many intersections here to be excited about if you're like a person who likes to sensationalize stories. So the DC sniper, what was he shooting people out of the back of a Caprice through like the trunk keyhole? You put in here like he did kill 10 people over 3 weeks in October. And he had an accomplice who was his like adopted son, Lee Boyd Malvo or whatever. And, this whole thing was happening. And I remember it happening. And they even talked about how they started tarping off because the shots were at random. They were grocery stores. They were people locking up after leaving work. It was people pumping gas. Like nobody could predict when the next shooting was going to happen. I remember my mom, and it was all over, like it was between Maryland. It was the DMV, right? So it also felt politically motivated because this is DC, right? So I remember my mom telling me like, it wasn't safe to be outside of gas stations. We did not know where the next person was going to get killed. And I think in that first day alone, they happened, like several of those happened, of those 10 happened over the course of hours. So that was the crazy part. Now, some people lived, some people ended up passing away, unfortunately. But I thought it was interesting. What was interesting about the documentary to me was I wanted to focus on that. So when they started talking about Mildred's story, I kind of was like, where is this going? And I remember you told me to watch it and I wasn't quite sure what to expect because I was like, his wife wasn't part of the DC sniping. But as she started to tell the story about, this veteran who ended up getting PTSD, and I will say like the military changes people because, my dad spent his 25 years in the military or whatever. And he'll never admit to having PTSD, but he definitely shows like characteristics of it. And he also has this really like I think most people in the military can sometimes have a mean streak about them. And I don't want to generalize. I'm pretty sure there's like plenty of great people that come in and out of the military and do great things and aren't mean at all. But there are some that really display a mean streak. And a coldness. And I think John the way Mildred told the story was highlighting a lot of that and how he ended up turning on her. And one of the things that struck me was how she kept saying, as things progressed and he finally like got physically violent, because she also wasn't recognizing abuse as anything other than physical violence. As he finally got like physically violent and wanted to divorce, and she wanted to, get him away from her and out the house and away from the kids, he said, "You're my enemy. And as my enemy, like I have to kill you."
Like he was still in war, like in
Yeah.
battle.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that is some PTSD shit. But the fact that he turned on her in that way, that he was already kind of turning on her in the marriage. Like he was cold, he was controlling, he was hijacking. Like, wasn't he like cutting up her favorite clothes or some shit every time she said she liked something?
Yeah.
It was
And
just so,
he isolated her, like they moved to the
yeah.
middle of nowhere. Like, yeah.
So there was a lot of like signals that abuse was taking place. Like abuse really isn't just like this physical experience. It can be very mental, it can be emotional, intellectual,
Mhm.
however, verbal. So it took him finally like, trying to push the door open and knocking her backwards, her hitting her head for it to be a thing. Now this ain't even the craziest part of the story. The crazy part was how long he took them damn kids.
I know he kidnapped the kids and they were gone for like a year or two.
It was like 17 months, I think, by the time, and he had them in what, like the Caribbean
In
somewhere
a
under
different
different
country.
identities.
Yeah, like that he should have been locked up for that. Like the fact that he had them under different identities and took them
Hmm.
out of the country, he should have been locked up for that. I don't understand how nothing came about from that.
Well, what struck me as interesting was during the story, she was like, he came, he got the kids one day, and then she knew something was wrong because she was like, where are you at? You're supposed to have him back by now. And he was like, we'll be there shortly, and then never came back. And then it goes on a 17th month long run or whatever, where he has these kids playing like an identity game where he's got them under new aliases in a different school in the Caribbean where he's also making fake identities for other people. That's how we end up getting Lee Malvo, who is a Jamaican kid, a juvenile kid that he ends up kind of taking in under his wing while he's over in they were in Jamaica, right?
I don't remember exactly.
It was an island, and he ended up taking him under his wing, and he had this random kid obviously living with his actual kids, which not to be like super suspicious, but like, bro, you don't know this kid. What's interesting to me is when she tried to report it and she told them like, hey, he's kidnapped by kids, they were like, hey, he just has just as much right to the kids as you do. But what I think is interesting about that statement is, so don't I have as much right to see my kids as he does? So like at
Yeah.
what point is there some balance in that type of reasoning, So yeah, he has just as much right to see his kids, but I haven't seen my kids in months. I think there's something
Mhm.
wrong with that. Or like, yeah, he has a right to see his kids, but I don't know where they are. Like I
Yeah,
feel like there
exactly.
should have been some type of protection or things that could like steps in place that if my kids are missing, even if they are with their father and I don't know where he's taken them and cannot get a hold of him, I feel like that's a problem. I don't care if we are married. I don't know. The institution of marriage is a weird one. And I don't know. That part struck me as odd. Then when she finally got them back, he was so angry about it. And, he got to, keep Lee, obviously, Malvo, who probably is a victim of circumstance to some degree in this situation.
He definitely is. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I felt so bad for this kid because it was like
Yeah.
he was just looking up to someone. He was just trying to look for a father figure, and
Yes.
he unfortunately
Got this
found,
one.
yeah, found it in a psycho. So
Yeah. So, they go on that killing spree or whatever, and they are taking like these random shots, random people are getting killed. And Mildred ends up like when the FBI or whoever, when they finally, get the drop on them and understand who they are and they start to name him,
but
we start.
what I found interesting is how they found out who they were, which was
Mm-hmm.
just like one fingerprint off of a book
Yes.
that he left as a crime
Mm-hmm.
scene. I was like, imagine if that did not happen.
They were
Like,
good.
yeah,
That
no,
was
they could not figure it out.
But that was the cops kept saying that too. They were like, we were just following ghosts. Like we didn't know what to do. Like we had no leads, nothing like that. And I remember even when we were younger and this was happening, that was the problem. They were like ghosts. They would come in, shoot somebody, and be out in like minutes.
And
No
then the fact
evidence, no
that
trace.
and then the fact that they thought the suspect's car was like a white van
Oh my
versus a
gosh.
black Caprice.
They were
Like,
just trying to latch onto anything to get a lead. Like they didn't even know what they were looking for. And they said that like we had tunnel vision and we kept looking for white van. The Capricious drove off. And they were doing it in such a really, I don't have a better word for this, but like a creative way. Like you're shooting out of the trunk of a car, a sniper rifle that you could just load up and drive away. He said that. So what they start piecing together once they figure out who they are is that some of these were taking place close to Mildred. And that's how we get this kind of news story that the underlying motive behind these attacks, it was not random. It was not some angry, narcissistic, like serial killer who just wanted revenge on the earth. He was angry at his wife for getting custody of the kids, and she was technically the target. So he wanted to be able to shoot people at random. So when he shot her, then he would be able to swoop back in as a grieving husband and take the kids back. And I thought that would have been the perfect murder, honestly. But that's some sick shit, and that's some heavy premeditation. So he did end up getting the death penalty, mainly because they were thinking like serial killer terrorist type shit. But even for his diabolical, like, the plan and the premeditation to do that to someone, to your wife, to the mother of your children.
Yeah, and all the victims that came through the crossfires, like that, yeah.
As like victims of circumstance, like just as a part of your ploy. That shit is crazy. Now, given all of this is debatable because technically they never let any of this enter into like the court rulings or anything like that. They never took it into consideration. So technically it is, I guess, like speculation still. But I thought it made more sense than this random guy going on a killing spree unmotivated by anything other than hate.
Yeah, because if it was around hate, I feel like it would have been a particular like race or gender or whatever. There is none of that. And then there was no like, it wasn't like he left like
there was no age.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he left like a not a note, but what is it when they leave like those books of like their
manifesto. He was leaving like
there was
notes.
No manifesto.
Yeah, but there was no manifesto. So yeah, and he was calling them like, you're looking in the wrong place. I don't know what he said to them, but he was basically like giving them like hints, and that's how they ended up finding Malvo, because he mentioned whatever had taken place. What was it, in Alabama or something, somewhere in the South? But they had mentioned that shooting, and it ended up linking him back like through the fingerprint. So the whole thing was actually really fascinating. I had a good time watching it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great watch. Let's get into something that is also, I think it's a good documentary, but it definitely pulls even deeper at your heartstrings. And we're talking about The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix, which is a documentary that basically shows gun violence. And it talks heavily about stand your ground in the US. And so unfortunately, a Black woman was shot and killed by her neighbor, who considered herself the perfect neighbor, is basically just a Karen, who shot her through her front door. So it's like, sorry, I'm getting like frustrated and disgusted just talking about it.
So I accidentally watched this, and I didn't know what I was getting into going into it. I saw it on Netflix. I was actually going to bed, and I was like, let me find something to fall asleep to.
Watch before bed.
Don't I know it? Don't I know it? So Marquis and I, we were getting ready for bed, and I was like, I just put this on because I typically like to just pick something to fall asleep to. And we were watching it, and we both kind of got into it, and we were like, I feel like we got to see this through now because, this is Karen being a Karen. I thought it was going to be some shit like, like the Roommate series or like something like that, like some white woman harvesting bodies in her basement or some shit. I was like, I can go sleep to that. So as we kept watching, we felt like we had to see it through, and I just want to say, like, I sobbed a lot of the like when the reveal happens. So you get this white woman, Susan, obviously, that's as close as you get to Karen, and she's got beef with all of her fucking neighbors. It is like a neighborhood heavily with kids. Let's start there. Black and brown.
And it was a pretty diverse neighborhood. It was like Black, white kids, mixed kids all playing together. I was like, oh, this is so cute. This is what we want as a society. We're like, have the kids go out and play with each other instead of being on their computers and laptops all the time.
Yes. So yeah, I say Black and brown, but there were a lot of like biracial, like mixed kids. There was a lot of diversity in the neighborhood. So she's got beef with the fact that kids exist for some reason. Like, she's calling the cops constantly. As at a certain point, I remember saying in the series, like, I mean, when we were watching it, I was like, isn't she harassing them at this point? Like, is somebody going to do something? So
she was. They said
She
that the cops said that in the year 2021, she called the authorities half a dozen times
yeah,
complaining about the neighborhood kids.
just solely like her beef is solely with these kids. Like she's yelling at them, she's calling them names, she's cursing at them, she's calling them R words, B words, P words, N words. Like she's using everything in the book. And then whenever an adult confronts her, she automatically acts like she's a victim of something and someone's going to kill her and beat her up. And I feel like when they set this up, it's basically like you can kind of see her defense building itself because she keeps saying like, oh, she threatened to beat me up, and she keeps exaggerating everything. And you
Mhm.
can tell like she's a fucking liar because there's one point, she calls the cops come, the cops are getting fed up, the neighbors are getting fed up, the kids are getting fed up. Everyone's fed up with this lady. Different cops are coming back throughout the series and they're like, bro, I've already been here. I know how this goes. Everyone's fed up because you're literally watching it on the body cams.
Yeah.
So there's one point which never kind of comes up again where she like rams the gates to get out of that one place.
You're right. That never did come up again. It
That
was just like,
never,
you're just gonna pay for the damage. But why the
yes.
fuck did she do that? We never know.
No, because she's white, to be honest. If it was a black person, that definitely would have got investigated more. So she comes out and somebody had mentioned on Reddit, because I was, I needed somebody to talk to about what I had just saw. And they were like, you notice how in the moments that the cops knock and she's like, wait a minute, I've got to get some clothes on.
Rude as
They were
shit.
like, but they were like, that's who she really is. They finally got a
Exactly.
glimpse of who she actually is, not the front she puts on when they're there in front of her during the
Yes.
day with their body cams on and stuff like
Because
that.
yes, because when she opened that door, the attitude
Mm-hmm.
was real different.
Exactly. And I think that's what she was giving those kids and those neighbors. So when they open it, the first thing, and this is where I started to realize, like, not only is this bitch like unwell, but she's an absolute pathological, like, victim or liar or both. So she immediately goes into, like, I was raped and, assaulted by brutally, and I thought I feared for my life. And she keeps going into this, and I guarantee what I would have wished was that they had searched her computer history to see how
Exactly.
much she had looked into Stand Your Ground, because the language she was using was very coded. And I only say that because, like, when Stand Your Ground happened, it was already controversial because, we already had like Trayvon happen under
Exactly.
Stand Your Ground.
That's exactly what she thought she was going to be, a George
Yeah.
Zimmerman.
Yeah. So and somebody, I'll get to that in a second, but basically when she antagonizes these kids, it finally comes to a head because she fucking takes one of their iPads or something. And she's like throwing skates at them. She's doing wild
Yeah.
shit to these kids. She just hates black and brown kids, I guess. So she goes inside and she calls the cops. The cops are on the way. I thought this was damning when those interrogators, like those investigators, put her in the room and they were interrogating her, and they were like, "The call you made was at it ended at 8:59, and they said cops were on the way. You called back at 9:01 saying you had shot the black mom who had confronted you about taking the kid's iPad." It's fucking Susan. She's like throwing skates at the kids. She antagonizes them to the point of taking one of the kids' iPads allegedly. And she goes back in her house. AJ, the mother of one of the kids, one of the black kids, goes over and confronts her. So Susan, while AJ's banging on the door, is like, "Oh my God, I'm scared. I feel like this person is at the door and they're threatening me. I think she said, like, she's going to kill me, blah, blah, blah." Hangs up. That's at 8:59. The call ends. At 9:01, she calls back saying that she's just shot this woman. So 2 minutes. It takes her 2 minutes to be fearful of her life. When the investigators are interrogating her, she's saying, like, "Oh, I remember this happening. I was on the toilet. I got up. I washed my hands. I went and
Yes. Oh
I
my
couldn't
God.
find my
Even
phone."
what she
Like,
was saying didn't even add up. It didn't even line up. And I'm just
no.
really glad that the cops did the right investigative
Mm-hmm.
work, detective work, because even when they were like, yeah, when they came with the time frame, but
Mm-hmm.
then when they were like, so when the little boy was at your door, what did you tell him? And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, I told him to go get his mom.
Yep.
So
Because she knew. Because
yes,
she knew. Well, she said in the first investigation, like when the events first happened, they take her that night because she shoots the woman, she shoots AJ's son has to see this happen,
oh my God,
right?
I'm so
And
heartbroken.
he goes and gets, because that ring footage of him like going to the door and getting other people to call like 911,
Oh my God.
everyone already kind of is like, what the fuck? They have to call the dad because they take her away in an ambulance. Even to this point, because remember, I went into this blindly. I'm thinking like, oh, she shot her. This is gonna be like an issue where she gets arrested for shooting her, but I didn't think she was going to die. So because one of the officers said, I saw her moving when the little boy had asked, is she moving? Is she okay? And she said, yeah, I saw her moving. I was like, oh, okay, so she's good.
Yeah. I thought
Then
she was gonna
they,
make it too, because they were like she got shot in the shoulder. Like I was like, okay, like
but they had said there was no exit wound. And for those of you that don't know, I was a medic in the Air Force. And no exit wound means that some shit's fucked up internally.
yeah, internal bleeding.
Um, yeah, because the bullet didn't come straight out. It didn't go straight through. So all of that to say, they end up having to call the kids' dads. And the dad, the way he handled that situation, bro, like the
No,
way that
I thought that was the grandpa.
was it grandpa or was it the kid's dad?
I thought it was grandpa, but because I thought that was his daughter.
No, I think it was their dad. And I thought they said your kids need you right now. They need someone right now. Either way, whether it was grandpa, whether it was papa or dad, he came, they told him in the moment, they're on the body cam footage telling him like she passed away. He breaks down real quick. He only gives himself a
Yeah.
minute to do it. And then he has to tell the kids. When those kids broke down, bro, I had to sit up. Mind you, I was supposed to be going to bed to this. I was sitting up in bed bawling. I'm talking about snot. I'm just like, why did
I
she do that
was
to her? Like,
I was so sad, but I am really thankful that she wasn't another George Zimmerman and got
yep,
away with this.
yep,
And so I do appreciate them putting this documentary together
yep.
because at least at the end, we did get some type of justice. And her family really fought for her. And it sucks that it had to come to this because she did not deserve any of this at all, or the
That whole
family.
neighborhood kind of like was up in arms about this whole shit. Like that neighborhood was actually really close knit for it to
They were. And
like
that's
they
why
were
I was so upset with how like she was acting because everybody was like when they told the neighbor, like one of the it seemed like that was like her best friend almost
yes.
because
Was
she
that the
was
white lady?
yeah, she was
Yeah.
so just like upset and hurt. Like
Yeah.
all the kids
It
were
was
like feeling it.
and it was even the kids that were like telling the other kids sorry. But when they brought her in that night, they had asked her like, okay, what happened? And she basically said, she tried to brush it off, where she was like, oh, go get your mom. I don't care. When the kid was like, I'm gonna go get my mom because you took my iPad. And she was
Mhm.
like, she kept clutching her pearls, and they were like, well, somebody's dead. And she was like, oh my god. So somebody had pointed out that when they were in the room, she kept trying to put on an act like, oh my God, that's like, oh my God, that's that, oh my God. But then as soon as they left, she drank some water and was sitting there, and she looked like she had no remorse
She didn't.
until she realized cameras were in there, and then she tried to be sad again. And then when they had her write that letter to those kids,
That sorry ass note.
where basically they asked this woman who had just killed their mom to write a letter because they were like, we can't let you talk to the family or see the family, but sometimes it's helpful if you let them know, like if you write a letter to them and let them know like what happened exactly, it's helpful for the family. She wrote, I'm sorry I killed your mom. I thought
Feared for my
I
life.
feared for my life. I thought she was going to kill me or something like that. I'm like, you stupid bitch. That's what you would write to those kids. And even when the officer was like, have you read about what's going on online? And she was like, yeah, I seen where they said I was throwing skates and all this other stuff. And he was like, I see 4 kids without a mom. And she was like, then when they finally wrapped this shit up and told her like that call came 2 minutes after all the shit you said you were doing and said happened did not happen in 2 minutes, find that highly unlikely, so you're now under arrest. And she was just like, no,
Oh my gosh,
I
I
didn't even know
forgot
you
all
could do
about
that.
that part. I
I
forgot
didn't
all
even
about
know
that
you could
part.
do that.
Those cops were so patient with her
Bruh,
because that would never have happened to anyone else. And we know what I'm
girl,
talking about because the way she just, it was like a good 5, 10 minutes where she was like, I'm not going to
no.
jail. This isn't happening. I'm not going with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was just
Just
like,
kill me
what?
now. She was so dramatic, so dramatic. But it's like she kept trying to put on this front. And finally, when that happened, somebody had said that when it finally occurred to her that her master plan of getting off on stand your ground was not going to work, she didn't know what to do. And they were talking about how much in denial she was that she was actually going to be arrested and like charged with this, like with actual manslaughter. Um, and I actually went back there on YouTube. There is the real life trial,
Mhm.
and she reads a statement to the jury as like part of like her, like I guess her last words and shit, and or like her closing statement. Girl, it
Oh
takes her
no.
13 minutes, I think, before she even apologizes. She starts off by listing all of her medical conditions. and how she had surgeries and how she was burned during a surgery and how like her hip needed to be replaced and all this. Like
We
that is
don't have any sympathy for you, Karen.
girl, I don't know where she gets this like entitlement to people's like empathy and sympathy, but it was disgusting. I don't even know why I watch it. Obviously I fell into a rabbit hole after I fucking realized what I was watching. But she does end up getting charged and she does go to jail for it. But I think even to the last minute, she's still, I don't know, it's weird. It's like Brene Brown talks about being a goodish person. I think in her mind, she did not think she was a racist.
Yeah, she didn't.
She did
Even
not
though
think she
you're
was.
literally calling them the N word. Like,
She said, I thought that meant like being unlawful or unruly. No, bitch. And first of all, it's supposed to be ignorant. So you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You're just making shit up. Unlawful? That's what the N word means? You're stupid. Second of all, like her mind's just not like I don't even think she could admit to herself why she hated those kids so much.
and it was also like, why did you never leave? Like, she kept
That's what
saying
everybody
she
kept saying.
hated the place. She was gonna leave. She never left. Why? Because you had this plan in mind.
Well, she's one of those people, I think, like, like there's certain, I used to have a friend like this. The man loved going on the internet and arguing with people. And I'd be like, why don't you just delete your socials? And I'm like, so you just want to keep arguing with people on the internet? And he did. Probably continuing to this day. But I think she's one of those people who acts like they don't want drama, but loves it, thrives in it, just craves it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was the perfect environment for her to create drama to the point where she was like, oh, that's why I said I wanted hard proof evidence that she planned this. That's why I was like, I wish they would have went through her laptop or her computers or her phone
Yeah,
and
because
just,
I was a little annoyed that they brought that up because the guy was like, "So if we look through your laptop now, or
yeah,
looked up stand your ground, then you're telling me nothing's there." And so I was like, are you guys gonna show us that you
yeah,
guys did this?" So I was a
yeah.
little annoyed that they even brought that up, but I
Just
mean,
like
I
the
get
gate
it.
thing. But there was reasons for showing that because she definitely knew because they said at one point she was showing the kids the gun and stuff like she was leading up because she kept saying like that coded language. I was so scared. I feared for my life. She kept saying that phrase specifically. I
Mhm.
feared for my life because that's the understand your ground. You don't need to have like an actual valid reason to shoot someone or to stand your ground. You just need to be able to prove that you feared for your life. And that's why the law is so controversial because how do you argue against that, you know?
But it's also
So
like, sis, like you can't just shoot through the door though,
a
like because
locked door
obviously,
at that.
how
I
they gonna
thought
break in?
so Marquis, when we were watching, I was like, oh, clearly she was banging on the glass sliding door, and maybe like that's why she was so scared. No, she was banging on your front door, bitch. If she really wanted to get in there, all she had to do was break that sliding glass door. Shut up, Susan. So yeah, I'm glad she's right away in prison because fuck her. So
That's the final remarks.
yeah,
All right, so let's get into our last thing that we think you guys should definitely be watching is Bad Influencer on Netflix. Now, I'm the only one that's watched this, but I
you
feel
got
like
it.
once you watch it, you will be hooked. So, basically, Bad Influencer is a South African drama, and it's by this production company, Gambit Films. And if you know their projects, you know that they create hits. So they created Blood and Water on Netflix, which is a YA drama. Um, Amazing. 4 seasons, gets better every season. They also created Fatal Seduction, which is like another drama, but very sex heavy, like husband cheating on his wife and all this other mistress stuff involved. It gets really crazy. And then they created another show called Unseen. So they created 3 hits before they had this one. So Bad Influencer is a TV show about a young single mother that is also really good at making counterfeit designer bags. So she is doing this to survive, take care of her son, and she gets into a lot of shit.
No.
She owns like some loan sharks. She like cannot get the money fast enough. She was basically selling these counterfeit purses to wealthy African women, but then got caught up. And so she then runs into an up and coming social media influencer, basically, and convinces
Mm.
her to use her social media to sell these counterfeit bags. Because basically how they met was in the mall, and the social media influencer, like her sponsor, had basically bought her this bag and she wants to trade it in. Come to find out, the mother, BK, that's her name, told her the bag was fake. And so that's how we've come to find about BK, and basically like she's an expert at understanding like luxury bags.
Mm.
So what gets interesting about this series though is that I feel I don't want to give the whole plot away, but I'm gonna give some things away. So
I've been giving the
basically,
plot away.
yeah, you have. So basically, BK and the influencer, they start selling these counterfeit bags online, right? But you know, like there are different levels of influencing. So Pinky is the influencer. She's like a mid-level influencer. She only got like 30,000 followers. You know, they start going to these like exclusive events, and one of the top head influencers, Naomi, who has millions of followers, right?
Mm.
Is a straight mean girl and is hating on Pinky because Pinky started getting endorsement deals and started, you know, building up, you know, climbing the ladder. And so Naomi goes and like embarrasses her at this like party, this exclusive party. She calls the bags fake. They are fake, but you know, she calls her out
Hater.
on it.
Still a hater.
She called her out on it. And so it basically busts their plan. Like BK and Pinky can no longer sell these counterfeit bags. So now they have to figure out a way to sell these bags. So once again, they go to the streets and they get a plug from, you know, one of the guys that's running the streets, a really dangerous, basically mafia guy.
Per usual.
And they get caught up in some even more like shit where BK is now running a sweatshop and has dozens of African women making these counterfeit bags. And all of a sudden, they can't use Pinky no more. So they create a fake persona, a fake social media person that's masked up,
Mm.
and she is selling these luxury bags. And
Okay.
the way that they're selling them to all these women is they're basically saying that these bags are from other women that no longer wanted to be connected to their sponsors. They call them blessers. They call them men blessers. So they're like, they took their power back. They're no longer being used by these men. And now they're getting rid of all of their luxury designer purses. So who wants to
Okay.
buy it? So this is how they're selling the bags online. That's the
Okay.
story. So
It's a good story.
it gets really good. And I was just like, dang, like I just love how they show the layers of social media, the layers of also I don't think people really understand like the counterfeit market like that, because like
Mm-hmm.
I know so many people that wear fake bags. You know what I'm saying?
There, it only seems fake when you look like you wear fake shit.
Well,
I
yeah.
feel. I feel like it's only as real as you look. So if you like, if I see you in rainbow with a Louis Vuitton, I'm a question whether or not that's a real Louis bag. I don't know
Very
why.
true.
It's just where my mind goes to. If I see you in Neiman Marcus, like a Nordstrom, I'm like, maybe. The only time I can never tell is on the New York subway, because you could be from the Lower East Side. You could be from like a hood. You could be from one of the hoods in Brooklyn. I won't know because everybody takes the subway. That's the only times I can't tell which bags might be real or not. And even then, I still don't know. I just know whether or not you look like you would wear one.
And that's the thing. Most people don't know what's a actual luxury designer bag versus like a well-made counterfeit one. So I love that it shows that dynamic. The story gets also interesting because BK starts dating a cop. This cop is of
Oh,
course investigating counterfeit luxury bags and
of
who's making
course.
them. Yeah. So but what I did appreciate about this series is you're like, well, how is this going to go into a season two? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a really good ending. I'm not going to give that away, but there will be hopefully a season two where BK is still trying to get out of the mud, basically, like still trying to figure it out, because also it's the ending that I feel like this ending is like a lot of these stories they get out of the situation, the messy situation. She doesn't get out of it. Like she ends up having to go to prison.
Oh,
So
good. I love that.
exactly.
I love a realistic ending.
It's very realistic, but how they continue it for there to be a season two is what I found interesting. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, hopefully you'll check it out, even though I gave you a lot of the premise. But
No,
I
I
still didn't.
actually I almost clicked on it the other day. I just wasn't in the mental space to watch it. So it's interesting that you put it on here.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was like a South African show at all. I was just like Bad Influencer. Like just the name alone, I was like, oh, let me see what this is about.
Fair. No, I'm still gonna check it out, and I think all of you should too.
And
You
what
wanna?
I do appreciate about Gamblet films is that they have, I feel like they have original series, like original concepts. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I never know what to expect from their TV shows. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the actors are just so good. Like the actors that they pick, you can tell that they like working with them because they'll use the same actors in several of the series. Like they're low key like a Tyler Perry Studios. Like you'll see the same actors recurring, and I'm just like,
I like when that rapport builds though, because I feel like certain people, once you work well together, you just like strike gold. Like I obviously
exactly.
Cougs, Michael B. Jordan are a good example. Tyler
That's
Perry.
probably, yeah, that's probably a better example actually, because the lead actor, male actor in this, he's been in like all of their shows,
That
and
makes
so I'm just
sense.
like, yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
So yeah, so we're about to end this episode talking about one quick thing, which is shit we didn't ask for.
I have a great way to transition this actually.
Yes, go ahead.
So, because my shit I didn't ask for is a Zeus show, I want to start by saying, okay, I don't like to admit that I watch Zeus. Okay, it's not the highlight of my day to tell somebody I be watching baddies and Jocelyn's Cabaret, but I am the biggest fan of Jocelyn. Okay, it's weird, I know, but it's like I don't. It's complicated. I only watch Love and Hip Hop because Jocelyn was in it. Like that's the only Love and Hip Hop I've seen. It's the only one I want to watch. I like Jocelyn as a person. I think she's complicated. I think she is like faceted. I think she is driven probably more so than anyone I've seen in like mainstream media to this degree. And I say that because I wasn't a fan of Jocelyn's music until I started watching Jocelyn's Cabaret. So there'll be times where I'm walking around the house and I'm like, I like the way you are. I like the way, and it's just because Jocelyn. So this is why and there's a point to this, I promise. The reason why I think Jocelyn is such a fascinating person is because this woman literally built a show to broadcast her music. She made a cabaret to broadcast her music. So she ended up doing this weird like interplaying between like I'm actually building a business and I get to showcase my music. And her visuals sometimes make the music sound more vibey. Like I brought bad bitches to the party. I'm like, that's not like on its own like a super great song. But now that I'm seeing you like dance to it, I'm like, I brought bad bitches to the party. So I say all that to say, because my shit I didn't ask for is also a Zeus show. I say all that to say that I wanted to give Jocelyn some flowers because watching Jocelyn's Cabaret from the first season, where they used to have meetups in the streets because they wasn't even a restaurant sitting down, they would just meet up on the side of the street. And watching the cabaret go from like all these girls living in a house and just fighting each other, which, neither here nor there, to like an actual competition where they're competing for $50,000. Jocelyn's getting like her shows are sold out like across the country. They tour as an actual business, like it's an actual sustainable business. Jocelyn's music be hitting now. I'm like, bruh, to watch where she's come from to where she is now. She be talking about like her sobriety journey. Like she really be putting people on in a way that I'm like, bruh, this is actually amazing to see her come up. So I wanted to say, still a big fan of Jocelyn's Cabaret. If you haven't been watching this season, California's been pretty interesting. And the last two seasons, I think, with the addition of the $50,000, feels less like exploitation and more like a true competition show. Now, the shit I didn't ask for. Girl, why did they give this man Ray J a show? And
What
by
is it
that,
about? I didn't even know he
so
had a show.
they put this show called Love Cabin on Zeus. And basically they got a bunch of singles. It's Love Island on Zeus. And it's Ray J doing a bunch of perverted shit that nobody asked to see.
Oh.
Girl, one of the challenges was you go out and like it's a cabin like in the woods. They sleep in it's literally a ripoff of Love Island. If you've ever seen Love Island, it's the exact same thing. It's a ripoff. The whole Love Cabin shit is a ripoff of Love Island. They sleep in the same bed. There's like a narrator. They have challenges. They have to pretend to be like the best couple, and that's how you win the money. All that, except Ray J's hosting, and sometimes he be seeming a little like he on that shit. So one of the challenges, and this is why I said nobody acts this shit, because the shit be like super uncomfortable, was they're out in the cold. One of the guys takes his clothes off and lays down on a massage bed, and the girl he's partnered with has to get him hard. And we have to be able to see Chubb.
Oh No,
Girl. Yes. Yes. So
that's wild
that
to
is a
me.
challenge. It's I guess it's supposed to be like a play of the heart rate challenge in Love Island, where you're supposed to turn like whoever raises their person's heart rate the most, like they win. Great, cool. But just someone of them was like
But
literally put her hands in his pants and was like beating the dude off. One of their challenges was all the guys stood up and this white girl Chloe had to stick her hand in all of their pants to figure out who had the biggest dick one after another. I'm talking about dick hand touching multiple dicks, like my hands in this pants, my hands in this pants, now it's
that's
in this one, now it's in this
insane.
one,
It's
mad
low
dick
key.
hands.
It's low key like a mix of like Real Sex, the TV show on
Yeah,
HBO back in the day, and Love Island.
and then sometimes they fight. And then sometimes it's like somebody beating ass because we know Zeus. We love a good rumble, little rumble down under. But the shit is
Ugh.
weird. It's not entertaining. The people, the personalities aren't entertaining. The premise isn't entertaining. Ray J be seeming more perverted and a little ditty-ish than he is entertaining. The challenges are weird. Like the whole show is weird, and nobody acts that shit.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad
That's
you
my
exposed me to this. I didn't know this was out in the world like that.
if y'all watch Zeus, and it's not like Erica Menez, like looking for like her bisexual like love show or anything like that. That was actually semi entertaining. This shit is dumb, uninspiring, and unentertaining, and it's weird. So yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, we are going to end the show on that note.
Oh, you don't want to do All's Fair?
I don't just because I'm kind of tired of talking about it. I've
Oh,
been talking about it a lot. I've been talking about it for several videos on TikTok already. So
oh, okay. Go ahead.
I'm over it. And you haven't watched it, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, you guys, for tuning into another episode of Shit Black Girls Watch. Remember to follow us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and sign up for our newsletters to come to our next event. We want to see you there. And we can't wait for you to listen to the next episode. Until next time, I'm Mia Danae here with my bestie Trish. Love always.